Age-old argument in the reptile community. Rack systems. Just as soon as they were invented, it seems they have quite the controversy around them. You have the keepers that have been here for a while and the established breeders saying that they are useful, they are good, that are then putting down by the newer keepers, also referred to as the COVID keepers, the ones that got into the hobby around COVID time, and then more recently, the Gen Z keepers. Hey boys and girls, I find this rack system debate to be much like today's political climate. You have one side that is, it's pretty good, but there might be a problem or two going on there, and then you have the other side, which is all in all, pretty much just completely wrong. Which side is which that I'm talking about? Why don't you have a constructive conversation down in the comment section about it? I'm sure that's gonna go swell. The younger side arguing that rack systems are not good, and the older side saying the most boomer shit like you have to respect your elders and they're fine. Question remains though, who's right? As always, you're gonna have to stick around to find out. Let's get into the pros and cons of rack systems, and in my opinion, are they good or are they a tool that really should be left in the past? Let's get into it. If you've been a fan of the channel for about 3 years, you would know a few things. Number one, I used rack systems back then, and I still do today. Number two, I did a video about this at that point, and I was very pro rack system. And then finally, number three, I used to be really, really loud on videos. Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to the channel. Now, today is a good day. I have no idea why. I don't know why I was screaming into the mic every second. I'm glad that at least that one changed. For as I've grown this channel and grown my collection, you guys know all about Project Jungle that we've been doing over here, actually getting away from stuff like rack systems and sterile enclosures and utilizing more into bioactive vivariums like all the ones you see right behind me, even to the extent of us actually opening up a bioactive store for the business. I've kind of had my foot into both things, right? Like you can see these beautiful enclosures behind me, but what you don't see is directly behind the camera, I have a tub rack system for all my crested geckos and then a couple of rack systems for my baby cresteds. This video, let's break it up into the pros of rack systems, what they are good for, the cons behind them, and then lastly, just in my very humble, silly opinion, where I think rack systems can be a positive tool and where I think things are just going way too wrong in the hobby. The pros, huh? I always find it very funny. Okay, the Gen Zs, whatever you want to call them, these new keepers going after rack systems, I've seen the reels, the TikToks, whatever. They are annoying, I'll give you that, but the issue becomes, if you're pro rack system, it is very difficult to have a cognitive counterpoint to their arguments due to the fact that rack systems really play very little part. There's very little pros that actually are for the animal. Most of the pros come from the user, the keeper and or breeder. That's going to be accessibility. It is much easier to clean these tubs of the rack systems for my geckos versus me doing like these Sterilite shoebox bin or putting them each in like 5-gallon enclosures. That would take way more time. So they're a lot more efficient. It's a lot easier to keep, and you can keep a lot more. And the rack system right behind me we're using, I want to say it's like, I don't know, 18 by 2 feet or something, and it holds 36 of these little sliding rack things for my baby crested geckos. That holds a hell of a lot more than what I could put if I was using like the 6-quart bins and so on. There are definitely some cases where a rack system will be better for you than using something like a bioactive vivarium. If you have a sick animal needs to be quarantined, if you're getting fresh imports in, if you have baby animals and they're temporary, it's not really a big deal, but for the most part, a rack system is going to be very nice for an animal that is easily to be stressed out or an animal that is sick and needs to constantly be worked on, medicated. It's also going to stress it out. It's going to create a nice, secure environment where it can at least feel safe versus putting an animal in here that's wicked stressed or you're stressing it, constantly having to medicate and then throw it back into this giant enclosure. For things like if you're quarantining animals, again, the sick and the fresh imports, I feel like the rack system is going to be a better option than doing something like this. And again, for that temporary measure, just because it's easier on us, the keepers and breeders that are doing this as a full-time job, I save so much time using these rack systems versus how I was keeping them before with the lids and stuff like that. At the end of the day, when we are talking about babies, it is a temporary home. The animal is going to grow out of it, at which point it's going to go into a different type of setup. That or then be sold off. Usually we hope it sells so we don't have to put in other enclosures, but that's the pro rack argument, I think I would say. I can't think of any more things that are good about them. Alrighty, next up, let's get into the cons of the rack system. The biggest con of the rack system is going to be they suck. it's just, it's a crappy place to live in. If you were an animal, a gecko, a snake, whatever, which one would you? Or a drawer that is like dimly lit at best, mostly super dark, with usually what I see is one water bowl. If they're lucky, they'll have a hide in there, and I mean that's like if the breeder is like a good rack system guy, he'll put a hide in there with the newspaper and the water bowl. Here are the comments already, and you know what? Here's a disclaimer for this video. I swear to God, if you guys watch only part of this video and don't see all of it where I address pretty much the pros and cons of everything, and you write your stupid little comment, I'm gonna timestamp it, and then I'm going to laugh at you. I'm gonna tie 4:43. This is what I said here to correct the misinformation that you just commented. I'm gonna put an LOL. It's gonna hurt your feelings. I can see you now. See him now. Dakota, you dummy. Ball pythons live in burrows in Africa. This is what they like. They like the dimly dark drawer style system. They don't want this. They want that. You are just gonna stress your animal out. It really is. The best, like, comparison to make on this is the Gen Zs are definitely pro or anti-rack system, sorry, because they're very annoying about it, they're very, like, cancel culture about it, blah, blah, blah. And then the boomers are definitely pro. It's all the old fucking farts in here that have been doing the same thing for 35 years, not adapting, not evolving their setup. They're like, if it worked back in 1987, it works now, you libtard. That's all of them. They just... hobby can evolve. We can evolve our keeping process, and in my opinion, we should, because it only at the end of the day benefits the animal. 90% of these pro-rack system arguments are just to cope or benefiting the keeper. I swear to God, the mental gymnastics I had to go through to cope with the fact of some of these facilities, how they're treating their animals and putting in rack systems, it's incredible. I look back at old videos and just, I knew my thought process back, and I was like, why the fuck would I ever think like that's okay? I don't really care about your arguments. I think they're cope. I don't think they have real bias in them. We've seen definitely naturalistic enclosures be done for ball pythons, and what do we see? Yes, the animal does use the hide you get. It tries to make itself a little burrow den, just like you would replicate in the rack system. But what else do you see? During nighttime activities, during the dusk period to night period, you will find ball pythons coming out. I've seen ball pythons climbing on trees, going 2 feet up in the air through the limbs that people keep them. They do stuff. They're not just a fucking pet rock. And the biggest problem for the pro rack system people is the fact that the ball pythons are your best argument. It is probably the only species of reptile where I consider like, yeah, it's not the end of the world, but even then, it's not right. We get into what the fuck you guys are doing with all the other species of snakes. Oh man, it is so bad. A fucking Boega, an arboreal snake put into a V70, having this much, an arboreal animal that loves to climb, animals that live in the trees. This is what they get. Your ETBs, your Amazon trees, your emeralds, you get this size. You get the 56 quart combo. Holy shit, an extra 16 inches of room for an animal that enjoys to climb. Oh my god. Coda, the animals love the rack system better because they feel safe and secure. People, not everyone is going to do enclosures this packed in like this, and if it's too empty, it's going to stress the animal out and it's going to be too bad for them. They're not going to want it. They're going to prefer the rack system. Fair point. There is an argument to be made there. However, at the end of the day, the keeper can fix this. Just put more stuff, clutter it up a little bit, create safety areas for the animal. Problem solved. You can't fix what's wrong with a rack system. To be fair, that's not entirely true. I have seen some rack stuff done, Garrett, Reach Out Reptiles, where there are actually LEDs in each layer of the rack system, so they're actually lit. It's not this dimly lit to dark box that they're in. There is some stuff going on there. They also seem to be a little bit taller, so there's a little bit more enrichment that can be done. In this case, I would say, yeah, if all rack system people did that, I wouldn't really make this video making fun of them. But it's the arrogance for me, I swear to God. It's the treating the animals subpar, coping with that fact, and then getting angry at people that they don't agree with them because they're younger. We are older. I've been doing this since 1542, youngster. You better respect your elders there. You don't want to hear none of that hippie crap. Like, what the fuck, man? I went a little bit on a tirade over there. Okay, cons of rack system. I'm generalizing all of them. There are like those special doohickey ones, but the run-of-the-mill, the V70s, remember any rack. Sea Serpents, Triple L, there's others out there. Those rack systems are usually like the generality of when we're talking about people that keep them in racks. Size issue. Most people keep them way too small. They're keeping a 5-6 foot ball python and a V70 that's like this to this. Not big enough. The animal can't even like fully spread itself out. Pretty lame of an enclosure. It's dimly dark most of the time. Just a dark, dimly lit box. Not fun. Little to no enrichment. Some people will go above and beyond and put like substrate and maybe a hide or two, but 90% of the time these big boys are just putting paper, water bowl, and calling it a day. That is no way for an animal to live. Con number 5, they suck. They just suck. It's an awful, no, I'm sorry. Definitely when we are specifically talking about the well-being of the animal and taking yourself out, the keeper / breeder of this variable, it just stems the fact that this is going to beat a rack system in every way, shape, or form. There's no argument. You cannot make a strict argument, other than the couple I said before, of this being worse than that. All right, next topic. Let's get into busting some myths that everyone uses, including myself back then, used to cope about rack systems. The biggest one will always be, these are just little picture ideas. The biggest argument is going to be, if you cannot house each animal in a properly sized enclosure, if you are a breeder, then you should not be owning that many animals. It's made the adamant statement of, you're thinking too small picture. The big picture is, if everyone's using this, we wouldn't have that many animals then. So then the supply would drop down, the market would go up. This way, you're able to cost efficiently buy a ball python for $50 to $70 a dollar. Jesus Christ, the market's real bad. Maybe you can just get one for free. Instead of having to pay 10, 1,000, 70 grand for a ball python, have to wait months and months for the couple of guys that are doing them. The sentiment I stuck with for the longest time. I was like, these little Gen Zers, they don't know the reality of being the breeder. They don't understand the market, business, supply and demand. They don't know what's going on. Alright, let's just click on this little Morph Market page here. And let's see here. Oh yes, there are 33,461 ball pythons listed on Morph Market right now. That one more time. 33.4 thousand. And that's just Morph Market. That's not everybody out there. That's just the dudes that are on Morph Market. There's enough fucking ball pythons. You don't need to do it. If you cannot house your ball pythons in properly sized enclosure, no one's leaving fucking sleep no one's losing sleep at night. It's like, oh no, like if Joe can't use the rack systems, then he won't breed the ball pythons. What will we do? Well, fuck, man, there will be 33.3 thousand other people doing it. There's too many fucking ball pythons. Dude, stop breeding ball python. 33,000. It's fucking But you're being such a hypocrite. Check out the crested geckos. There's 6,300 crested geckos going on. You think you need to breed them in your rack systems and you're better than us? You're holier? No, dude, you're just being a hypocrite. I mean, yeah, I guess a little bit I am being a hypocrite. However, as you guys know, we have been planning a downsizing our crested geckos, only going with our best, keeping at somewhere around, I think I've chosen 2.5 group, a 2.5 group of crested geckos, and the rest will be listed onto my Morph Market either now, going into the 2025 and then finally 2026 year. We will be just slowly getting rid of everything and then moving on to stuff that does need breeding. My tokay geckos. My lovely tokay geckos. What's gonna happen once we downsize to that smaller group of crested geckos? I'm tearing this shelf system down of them, and they are all going to get PVC enclosures, and the animals that go in here will be getting cool little hybrid setups like these ones you see right here. So I'm a hypocrite for now, I guess, but I actually plan on fixing my mistake and fixing the issues that are going on in the hobby right now. Overproduction of animals and keeping them subparly instead of just trying to like do mental gymnastics and cope about it. To say it one more time, 33.4 thousand ball pythons are listed right now. That is an insane number of ball pythons. Why would anyone still be breeding ball python? How many tokays have like 50? There are 50 listings of tokay geckos right now. 33,000. That's insane, man. At the end of the day, we should be doing this for the welfare of the animals and producing stuff that we are, number one, passionate about, and number one, if we are very passionate about it, we should be keeping it correctly. Not doing this biggest shortcuts and everything else we can do to make our life easier, this career choice easier, but what's inevitably not great for the animal itself. Love all the people saying right now with everyone, you know, downsizing stuff, selling collections, the projects, they're like, well, those were the COVID keepers. They weren't really in it for the passion, they were just in it for the money. Shit, man, we should take that rhetoric and take it one step further. If you don't actually give a shit enough about your animal to give it a proper size home and proper well-being, then you too are in fact about the money, not about the animal. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to... That's it. That's like, there's really very little to no arguments you can make about this. And I know I've talked a lot about ball pythons because rack system owners, ball pythons are your best bet of trying to convince someone that this is actually okay. I don't think they're okay for like anything else. I mean, like those colubrids, a very active animal. An animal likes moving. You're restricting that by putting them in this little drawer shelf thing going on. Carpet pythons, a semi-arboreal species in most cases, depending on the subspecies. An animal likes to climb. You're restricting that again, putting them in the dark, dimly lit shelf. I don't know why I'm saying lit. It's a dark shelf. Reticulated pythons. That's I'm not even, that's a whole nother video in and of itself, but the point is made. I mean, they just suck. I don't know what else to tell you, man. Dakota, they keep husbandry better. It's much easier to control your humidity and heat inside of a rack system versus one of these bad boys. Okay, be better. That sounds like a fucking skill issue, my guy. If you can't figure out how to get proper husbandry in an enclosure like this, you can only figure out how to do it in a little fucking drawer tub, then I don't know. Research, be better, get good at keeping animals, I guess. All right, we've come to the end of this. Where do I think rack systems are an actual useful and okay tool, and where do I draw the line? Because my opinion means the best, it means the mostest, because I'm a YouTuber, it's an influencer. That means my opinion's good and yours is wrong. You sound... Rack systems are fine for hatchlings, babies, so on and so forth. A temporary measure and a temporary enclosure. Because yes, it does make my life easier, and it is easier for the animal to have the correct husbandry. It can feel secure. As we mentioned in this video right here, keeping these babies in smaller enclosures actually makes them grow faster and always retain healthier versus putting them in larger size enclosures when, of course, they are a growing baby. I don't find them to be super harmful for babies and temporary stuff, especially if you are a larger scale breeder. I don't find any problem with that because eventually that animal is going to go into a keeper's home or other breeder's home where eventually it should get an enclosure like this, a final setup for it, instead of just being moved from a smaller rack system to a slightly bigger rack system. It's a temporary space at the end. The animal's either going to outgrow that space and go into a properly set up enclosure, or it's going to go to its new home. Number two, as I mentioned earlier, quarantine setups. I think they're fine for that. I think if you have recently imported animals that you need to quarantine, or if you have sick animals you need to get rid of your collection, having a room with a rack system where you can easily check up on the animal, see how it's doing, all of that good stuff, that's fine. That's pretty reasonable, I would say. Number three, once you have passed like 300 animals, I think you can start downgrading their care and their needs, because obviously, I mean, you have 300 of these things, so you know better than everyone else and all these other guys because you have more of them. That means you can take these shortcuts and just throw them all in drawers. I mean, who really gives a shit at that point? Sorry, I actually can't think of any other good reasons why rack systems should be used. Maybe you guys will know. Maybe I don't think there'll be very many helpful criticisms down there. I think it's just going to be a lot of people that are going to be butthurt that I switch teams on them. Are the Gen Zs, the COVID, whatever, the new keepers making these TikToks, are they really fucking annoying and holier than thou as they grandstand on you with this stuff? I mean, yeah, it gets old. Moral superiority for me will always be an annoyance. I can never stand it, but the problem is, what's your argument? No, I don't think these animals should be cared for better. That's, you can't really, I don't know, maybe they can tone it down a little bit, but you got it, boys and girls. Another controversial topic that instead of making a properly executed and scripted video, I decided to go on a tangent for about 20 minutes. There's stuff I missed, and if I missed a lot of stuff, I mean, if you guys actually do want to have a constructive conversation down there, I'm totally, completely open to that. I would love to have a little back and forth, and if you guys actually do have some good points, I'll make a follow-up video and say, you know what? These guys actually do have some good takes. If you're just going to age grandstand and say you know more because you've been doing it longer, well, I won't really, I'm gonna laugh at you, I guess. Let me know down in the comments, are there other reasons why rack systems are good? Are there other reasons why they're bad and these type of setups are better? Let's have chaos run amok down there in the comment section. If that wasn't enough of average hype man making annoying sounds to you on the internet, check out this playlist right here or this video right here. As always, thank you so much for taking the time of your day to follow us over here at Dakota Blue Exotics. I'll see you guys next time, but until then, goodbye.